Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. Today is Wednesday, July 16th, 2025. We get together most weekday mornings at this time to talk about the grant and talk about how we assist small businesses in building financial literacy, giving away shelf corps, and then using those shelf corps and that knowledge to access funding. Yesterday, we had a really nice conversation about funding success stories. And so, if you missed yesterday's training, I certainly encourage you to go back to view it. But today's is much more relevant because yesterday we were talking about what money other people has received. But the truth is, we don't really need to worry about what other people have received. We need to focus on what our clients need to get funding. So that's what we're going to have is a very practical discussion going bullet by bullet, answering the question, is your business ready for funding? Now, the role that you and I play, assuming that you're one of our distribution partners, we're technical advisors. So we're legally and ethically helping small business owners have a fundable business. Now, what that means can mean different things depending upon what type of funding we're going after based on their use of funds. But we're going to today go through a very specific set of requirements from one of our preferred business lenders. And I think it's going to be eye-opening so we know exactly what we need. Now, this is going to also be helpful for those of you who are distribution partners, because on occasion you're running into someone that says, oh, no, 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 I don't need one of those free express shelves. I already have a fundable business. The question is, well, do you really? So, this same checklist, which is what we work with clients through the free shelf corps, is what those other people would need if they're coming to you saying, hey, no, 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 I don't need the shelf corp. I just need funding. So let's go through it, answer questions, and have a good dialogue. So, with this new preferred business lender, they have a number of different loan programs, SBA and non SBA. So, I don't want you to ever worry about, well, what's the funding vehicle going to be for the client? We're going to work with the client, match their mitigating circumstances to what's available, but it should not be your role that you're going out and already predicting the type of funding instrument that's best for the client. Now, with that being said, we don't get a power of attorney. The client doesn't have to accept funding that if they don't want the funding, they don't have to accept it. But my point with this new preferred lender is they're an SBA direct lender, but they also have non-SBA offerings. And so we have been able to get set up with them with delegated loan packaging. When you get delegated loan packaging, it helps a lot because we know what they're looking for. We have their documents, we have their processes, so we can be a greater resource to our clients. All right, so number one, what's the first thing to determine if someone's business is ready for funding? This is what our preferred business lender is looking for. And then conversely, if you have someone that just comes to you and says, oh, no, no, I don't need that Express Shelf Corp. I already have a fundable business. This is literally an exact checklist, not a general discussion of strategic high level. This is one by one. Here is what this lender wants, and of course, how we're going to help them. So, we do need to have a business, to no surprise, in good standing, both at the state and federal level. We need to have a good address on the business that is a unique commercial address. Cannot be a shared suite number, needs to have a documented lease. Now, this is going to be a pretty universal standing that most business loans will want. So this is not unusual. We'll go through a couple things this morning during the Zoom that is different of this lender than everyone else. This one's very standard. This is typically what's needed, and of course, not a problem for the client because we provide these items for free through the Express Shelf Corp. Anyone have questions on number one? It's probably pretty common sense, but any questions on number one? Okay. And well, I see Carlos has a question. So yes, these words are important. So not only do they want the client, the applicant, the borrower to have a good commercial address, Carlos is right. They want to see a copy of the lease. Now we provide all the grant participants in the Express Shelf Corp a documented lease, but yes, the lender wants to see the lease. They don't want to just have a wink, wink. Oh yeah, I have a good address. All right, so that's pretty easy. Not much surprise there, probably. Number two, this specific lender, as do most business lenders, want to see financial projections. Now, we built that out for each Express Shelf Corp. We deliver that within about 7 days of the client enrolling in the Express Shelf Corp. If we need to change it for the client based upon differences that they want, that's fine. But the financial projections is almost like an automatic check, just like this is. Every client of the Express Shelf Corp check gets this. Every client of the Express Shelf Corp click gets this. Check the box. Now, again, if they want to change the projections, we can work with them to change, but it's never going to be a barrier. Neither of these will ever be a barrier because it's included, but it's included not just so you and I have something to talk about, it's specifically what this preferred lender wants. All right, is there more? Of course. Project budget. Now, sometimes what will happen is there's different terms. So, our new preferred business lender calls it a project budget. You and I have commonly referred to it as a uses of funds, but it means the same thing. No worries, it means the same thing. So that's essentially explaining to the lender what the client, what the borrower wants the money for, what they're going to spend it on. And so we already have captured that into our normal process, no changes necessary. Once a client goes into phase two, which you're not familiar with phase one, phase two, let me know, we can go into it. But phase two, we get them the intake form, and that's where we nail it down. And that's also integrated in the business plan. So you can see a pretty steady pattern. Here are the specific things that our new preferred business lender wants. And great news, it's what we've already been doing because we built our Shelf Corp package around what lenders typically want to see. But there will be some differences. We're going to get to some differences, so it's not all an automatic check. Any questions on the first three items? Selena's asking about performance fees, and I'm going to save that question to the end, Selena, just because it doesn't tie to where we're at now, but that's a good question we'll come back to. All right, so pretty straightforward. What is it that we need to have our business ready or to have a client's business ready for funding? Depends on the lender. However, with our new preferred business lender, we know exactly what they want, and we're going through line item by line item. And the great news is so far of the first three, all three of those are going to be taken care of. They're built in. So let's move on. Number four is different. So this is a specific request using a specific form, which we have because we have delegated loan packaging from the lender. There is a document called a debt schedule. Not all lenders want that or need that. This lender does. We have it. It's not going to be a problem. Now, the interesting thing is it's going to be the easiest form ever to fill out because when we're providing an Express Shelf Corp, it's a clean entity back here on number one. It's a clean entity. It's in good standing and it also is debt free. So, guess what's going to be on the debt schedule in most cases? Nothing. It's going to be a clear blank piece of paper. And that's one of the benefits of using an Express Shelf Corp versus an existing entity is everything's clean. But that is something that this lender specifically requires. We have the form that they want completed and we'll help the client. So we still have to put client data in it, but there's not going to be any debts 99 out of 100 times unless the client has already received a first tranche before we applied for this round. All right, business plan. To no surprise, most business lenders want a business plan that lets the lender know, well, what is this business all about? Who owns it? What are they wanting to do? And then a number of the other elements we've talked about actually falls under the business plan. So the financial projections are technically part of the business plan that we provide with the Shelf Corps. The the use of funds is integrated into the business plan. But I'm just trying to delineate that specifically a business plan is needed. I'm giving you the checklist. But again, great news. That's already incorporated with the Shelf Corp proposition. And unless the client wants to change it, they've got a business plan ready to go. They have financial projections ready to go. But at the same time, if the client wants to make changes, then we can work with them in phase two to make changes. But otherwise, it comes ready to go. Next is a personal financial statement called a PFS. We've integrated that into our process. Now, you notice everything that we've talked about here is business, 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 business. Now we're not on business, are we? We are on personal. Now, some of you would say, whoa, 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 Tom, my clients only want business loans. Well, that's fine, but there's still an owner of every business, owner or owners. So typically, anyone that owns 20% or more of the business, we're going to need to get a PFS on. Now, the PFS is a statement of financial standing of an individual, not of the business, and it essentially reflects their net worth. So it needs to be accurate. We need to be honest, but there are strategies, legal strategies to optimize it. And we're certainly very good at that and will do so the client looks as strong as possible. We could have a whole separate conversation on this, but we literally, legally and ethically, can make anyone a millionaire on paper. There's some interesting tweaks that we'll probably do a different training on. We can make anyone legally and ethically a millionaire on paper. And so, do you have to be a millionaire to get a business loan? No, I don't get distracted by that. But we do need a PFS, a personal financial statement. It's a requirement by most business lenders. It is a requirement of this business lender. And they're a little more flexible. Different lenders have different forms. We have a standardized form that we use that the lender will accept. In some cases, what you'll find is that some lenders have specific forms that they want, but we're good to go on number 6 with this preferred lender. So that covers, I can go ahead and scroll down with the resources. So these are the 6 items that I wanted to discuss with you today. So as we're assessing, is a business ready for funding? Well, when could you use this as a dialogue? Well, if you're out trying to help someone enroll, whereby if you're a distribution partner and they're purchasing, well, they get it for free, but if they're enrolling in the free Shelf Corp with you, you determine the processing fee, client pays you, that's money in your pocket, and then what we're going to be doing is getting them their Shelf Corp documents, normally about 7 days. And then after that, when we go into phase 2, so this is kind of phase 1, phase 2 is where all these other items take place. Who has questions, comments, concerns? Because even though it's not your burden to go help clients put together their budgets and projections and business plans, we do that. We're your back office. I would like you to be knowledgeable about these 6 items. So are there any questions, comments, concerns that you all have? All right, well, Doug's got a good question, and it's kind of inferred, but I'm glad Doug brought it up. So number 3 here is, how much money does the client want to borrow? And let's just use 2 different examples, 100,000 versus a million. So if someone wants $1 million, what are we going to do? We're going to be putting these documents together. What if they want more? They want less. We're going to be putting these documents together. I think what Doug's trying to bring up, which is obvious but worth mentioning, thank you, Doug, is that these things will change based upon the client's capital raise. So if they say, oh, I want $1 million, not 100,000, then that's fine. So then we need their use of funds to reflect $1 million. Is that going to change the financial projections? Sure, because the financial projections come as a base case for 100,000. It's not a problem. In phase two, we can make changes to the projections, we can make changes to the business plan, not a problem. But yes, and I think probably, Doug, you knew the answer to that. Most of you could infer. If we're going to change from the base Shelf Corp scenario, which is 100,000 capital raise, it's fine. But then we're going to need to go in and edit some of the documents. But that's fine, and that's what we do in phase two. All right. So who else? Thank you for that, Doug. Who else has questions on these specifics? Because I know some of you, and I think Toby's one of you, you've had clients where you went out and you were talking to prospects, and the prospect said, "Oh, no, I don't need that. I just need money. I just need funding." So the question is, well, do you have a fundable business? I think some of you didn't exactly feel comfortable asking that because you didn't maybe have clarity of what that means. Well, that can mean different things for different loan programs, but for our new preferred business lender, now you have it. So if you're talking to the prospect and they say, "Oh no, I'm good to go. I don't need one of your shelf corps. I just need money." Okay, great. So do you have your financial projections put together? Do you have your project budget? Do you have your debt schedule? Is your business plan ready to submit to the lender? Is your PFS optimized? That's the checklist. In most cases, they don't have those things. Now, if you run across someone and they say, "Oh yeah, I've got all these," that means we take them right into funding. We're not going to waste their time, your time, our time. Then they're ready to move forward without the prep work, phase one. All right, and so TJ brings up a good point. So it's important that we go back and remember there are many different types of lenders, and many lenders have different loan programs, including our new preferred business lender. So they have a number of options that we'll work with the client and match them up based upon the best fit. So there's not singular answers. So all of this is honest and true. But when we get beyond that, there can be variables whereby it depends. So what we need to start with are these 6 items. Because if we don't have these 6 items, we're going to work with them to address it. But again, it happens almost organically, right? Number one, if they buy an Express Shelf, well, they don't buy it, they get it free. But if they enroll with you for a free Shelf Corp, they get this. They get all these items. All right. Let's see. Stephanie asked about foreign. Yeah, so we can work with individuals that are U.S. or non-U.S. I get asked that a lot, and that's fine. Selena asked about number of lenders. Well, you got to remember, as we talked about yesterday, we're not a lender. We're not competing with lenders. We're what's called you and I, we are technical advisors. So we have access to over 1,000 different lenders, but we do have a new preferred business lender that is anxious for Shelf Corp funding deals. They've reached out to me already this morning because I told them we're going to be talking about them on today's Zoom. So they're anxious, they're ready. So what we want to do is go spread the word. If you can find a small business owner that wants or needs money, my goodness, we can help them. You would just want to get them into an Express Shelf Corp. And if you don't know how to get them under contract, use our tech support line and we can walk you through it. Crazy something. All right, so let's see what other questions we have. Corey says, can a Shelf Corp have 2 different principals, which means owners, with a 90-10 ownership split, but a 50-50 obligation to funding? Well, so let's talk about that. So what I mentioned earlier today is that typically any business owner that owns 20% or more of the business is going to be on the business loan application and be responsible for the business's loan repayment. So that's the norm. So if you had someone that did not want to be on the loan app, what would you do? You'd make them 19% owner or less, obviously. And of course, maybe you could change that later if you needed to move it around. But anyone with 20% or more typically is going to be part of the loan. Corey's other question was about obligations. Well, I think there's two levels of obligation, Corey. There's what does the loan say? So the lender is going to have an obligation in many cases, if there's a PG, and not all financing has a PG, but if there is a PG, a personal guarantee, typically anyone with 20% or more ownership is going to have responsibility for a loan repayment if the business shouldn't repay. Again, there's some that has no PG. But so that's level one to Corey's question. Level two is what are the internal documents? What are the shareholder documents between the ownership? And they could do whatever they want. So I can't speak to what the individual shareholder agreements might state. That's between them as individuals. But in terms of from a lender's perspective, typically anyone with 20% or more ownership will be part of the loan application process. All right, so we'll go back to Selena's question from the beginning of the Zoom. So there are two ways that you as a distribution partner are paid. You're paid upfront the day of enrollment based upon the processing fee, and you determine what that processing fee is. And then secondly, you're paid off of the capital raise. You're paid 5% of the client's capital raise. We know each client will get at least 100,000. We went through that yesterday. So you know you're going to get at least 5,000 per deal that you bring in. So how that mechanics works, which I guess is Selena's question, each time a client has a round of funding, they get the funding, they pay the performance fee, which is 10%, 5% of that comes to you. So each round, they're getting money, they're paying, you're getting paid. Hopefully that makes sense. Some people think, oh, we don't collect the performance fee until after the very end of the capital raise. Well, if there's only one round, then that is true. But in most cases, there will be multiple rounds of funding, or maybe there's a line of credit, which is different than the term loan, which may be different than some real estate financing. But the bottom line is each time a deal closes, a deal funds with the client, they pay the performance fee and that gets you paid. You wouldn't want to wait till everything is done because they may spend all the money before they pay you. We don't want that. All right, who else has questions? We're on 509pacific.org. Anyone that's looking for funding, that's the top part of the page. Anyone that's wanting to be a distribution partner, that's the mid part of the page. There's 4 recommended trainings or videos here. Fill out the simple form. Let us know what your interest is, and we'd love to collaborate with you. We have 2 levels of distribution partners. We have branch offices and resellers. This form is applicable to both, but our primary focus is branch offices. We have a new branch office coming on today for Dallas County. We have several others that should be coming on this week. So we're doing well opening branch offices. If you're interested in having a branch office, let us know. All you do is just pay $1,000 down, and then we set up financing for the rest of the license fee. You can see the highlights here. One of which is we're giving you access to 100,000 to get your office set up and going. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns anyone has today? This is really important information, and if it doesn't seem like that, you might want to think more about it and maybe go back and review it. Because yesterday we talked about funding success stories, and that's fun, and that has pizzazz, and that has sizzle, but that's not really what we need to be focused on. Sure, lenders loan money. Sure, we help people get qualified for funding, but that's a given. What we need to focus on is what do we need to do to help a given client get funding? It's not about what someone else has received. It's about what your client is getting. Each client needs to be focused on, and we need to deliver results to each individual client. And so with our new preferred business lender, I wanted to take a few minutes this morning and just be very, very transparent. Say, okay, here are 6 core elements that they require. But what's the great news? we can help any client qualify, right? So with the Shelf Corp, they automatically have number one, check. We automatically provide them the financial projections, check. We need to put together the use of funds. If they want to use the standard use of funds for a management consulting agreement, then that's already included. If they want to change it, we can help them change it. The debt schedule is going to take like zero time because the Shelf Corps don't have any debt. So unless the client has already added debt to the Shelf Corp, this is going to be zero. The business plan we automatically provide. Again, if the client wants to edit, we can, but otherwise it's ready to go. We do need to spend, I don't know, 15 minutes with the client to put together their PFS, but we can take the client's documents, help them, strengthen them, what we call optimize them legally and ethically. So it's not a big mountain to climb. I think that's where so many people are confused, like, oh, I can't get business funding. Well, why not? I mean, literally, you and I can help anyone accomplish this in short order. All right. Well, thanks everyone. Again, the support line's the best way to reach us. Text us at 903-347-8042. You can schedule a call. We've shown you 509 Pacific. That's where you become a distribution partner or become a client or work with the reseller or branch office that referred you. We put our past trainings up on YouTube. Encourage you to keep up with those. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you back tomorrow morning. Have a good day. Bye-bye.